Welcome to this week's lesson segment on Weekly Outdoor Plus, brought to you by Barbershop, 2400 Church Street, Stevens Point, where they have the most wide variety of vacuums, sewing machines, and parts you can need, and great service to go along with it. So get your notebooks and pencils out, because it's time for your lesson segment with myself, Jase Hintz, and Weekly Outdoor Plus. As I told you guys last week, this week I'm going to start out by telling you guys how to get your shot timing a lot better. A couple of simple things that will make it easier on you when you're shooting for fun or when you're actually sighting in your bow, which will make a big difference on how you're patterning. And even when you're hunting, you don't want to pull back too early or anything, because it's all about how long you're holding your bow back. As you all know, the longer you're going to hold it, the more you're going to shake. A lot of people I know when they're shooting too will pull back, and it seems like they're in a hurry. They'll pull back, get it on the target, punch their trigger, done. You know, that's all. And that's not going to have tight groups at all. So little things you can do to make the difference there is you want your shot to be anywhere from, a fast shot should be like 7 seconds from the point you draw back and anchor to longest I'd say would be about 12. 12 seconds is going to start. If you have perfect form and everything, you'll just start shaking at that point normally. Very little bit, but it's also going to make you shoot worse. One easy way to fix it is going to be with your release. 97% of the releases that are out there have a trigger, obviously, and you can adjust the tension on it just like your guns. So when you touch it, it'll shoot fast, or you can have it so you got to squeeze it harder and it'll shoot. And that's one thing that if you're sitting there and you're aiming, slowly squeezing, that means it's taking too long. Make that trigger a little bit easier for you. All right. The cheaper releases that are out there are gonna also have trigger travel on them when you do put the more tension on the trigger. So that's something you also don't want. You have to have your setup lightly then, and that just means when you put your finger on it, adjust like how hard you put your finger on it. All right, like if you wrap it on there really tight, you don't have to pull as hard, it'll shoot. Where sometimes you can just set it on there if it's set lightly, and just play with how hard you set your finger on there. It's not going to be the exact same every time, but that's what makes the difference between your 7-second shots and your 12-second shots. It shouldn't be, you're sitting there trying to aim really hard and you're taking forever. Because again, if that's the case, take your finger off the trigger and let down your bow and start over your shot. Just like we've talked about in all the past episodes, it's all about having correct form, but then you have to execute that shot correctly, perfectly, so you can get the perfect follow-through, perfect shot. So, only thing I'm going to tell you guys is basically adjust your trigger so that it works for you. All right, when it comes in the box, it's not set up for you, it's set up standard. All right, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Adjust the trigger on there. Practice then, how hard you put your finger on there. Nobody really pays attention to that. Everyone, and especially make sure you put your finger on it. A lot of people leave it way up here, and then when they're going to take the shot, they hit it. But that's not going to work either, because you tell yourself to shoot when your sight's on the target, and it doesn't. By the time you actually get your finger to shoot, the brain sends a signal to your finger to shoot the bow arrow. By the time you actually squeeze the trigger, you're not where you thought you were. I mean, it's going to make your groups anywhere from a basketball to a beach ball, where if you can set your finger on there and slowly squeeze it and then just keep aiming, it'll shoot on its own a lot better. You're going to be more consistent, and you're going to have just your natural float, and that's what your pattern will basically be. Whatever you stare at, like we were talking about before, you stare at the middle, that's where your pin's going to be crossing the most. So when you're making that shot, again, stare at the target, practice how you need your finger on your trigger, and have someone time you 8-10 seconds, perfect shot. All right, till next week. Don't forget our newest sponsor, Barbershop, Stevens Point. Stop in, talk to Norm, he'll help you out. As always, have a good day.